Good evening and welcome to the second module of the 2022 Bowie Workforce Development and Life Skills Training Program. My name is Kay Starr. I'm the program coordinator, and we are going to wait for just a minute or two to give everyone a chance to log on. And then we will get started with Mark Lawrence and Takia from Incubate. They will be presenting on innovation and entrepreneurship this evening. As always, if you have a question, please raise your hand or type it in the chat, and we will address it as they come up. These presentations are always better if you bring up your own personal interests and things that you thought about doing for your own business purposes, because then we can address your specific questions and make sure this is most relevant to you. So we really encourage you to participate this evening, raise your hand, type in the chat, ask questions. We're going to wait just one more minute to start to give everyone a chance to log on. I really appreciate all of you guys who are here on time. Thank you very much. And we also will be uploading the PowerPoint presentation used this evening to the program supplementary materials page, as well as some other handouts, videos, and other helpful links that you can look at after this session if there's a topic you want to learn more about that we didn't cover in depth this evening. And as always, I will provide you with the contact information for our presenters this evening so that you can reach out to them if you have any questions or follow-up that you want to do regarding this topic. So with that, I was going to turn it over to Mark to get the presentation going.
Thanks, Kay. I'm going to load my screen here and make sure everyone can see. So first test in the chat, please, acknowledge you can see my screen. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Innovation Entrepreneurship, Turning Problems into Opportunities Part 1, which is part of the City of Bowie's Workforce Training Program. Okay.
Your slides aren't advancing on.
All right, okay. Let me advance my slides now. There we go, the little delay. So just a little bit about me. My name is Mark Lawrence. I'm the founder and managing partner of Incubate. And what we like to say we do at Incubate, we focus on the systems and tools that makes accessible to entrepreneurship for everyone. So what I truly believe is that entrepreneurship is a right. And if you talk about rights, that means it should be accessible and available to all. So I enjoy doing these sessions because I like to talk and hear about your ideas, but I do want to leave you with some principles of how to think about innovation entrepreneurship in the broader context. I will be joined today by one of my interns, a young lady, Takia Roberts. I don't know if she was able to log back in, but she had some audio issues. But she will be giving me anecdotes and supplementing and supporting the materials that I present today. Takia, are you on? Okay. So we'll give her a chance. I know she was having some technical difficulties, but we'll get her to chime in when she rejoins. So again, first thing, is anyone having technical difficulties other than the ones we were having already? I want you to think about why are you here? What do you want to get out of this webinar? I know you've been going through and receiving a lot of information over the past, couple of weeks, and now this is a continuation of that. You don't have to put it in the chat right now, but I wanted you to think about what you want to get out of this webinar. And then also there will be a few polls that we will just to see where folks are at so I can tailor. So we do have a set of slides that I am going to talk to, but I really want to hear from you. I know if you're shy, if you want to come off mute and talk about things, that's fine. If you're comfortable in the chat, that's okay as well. But feel free to type questions, raise your hand, interrupt as we go on. But I just want to really hear from you because the most you'll get out of it is what you put in. So again, this information will be sent to you electronically, but take advantage of having me here in person, us having a dialogue, and me just really getting to know you and some of the ideas that you have in your head. So with that, let's launch the first poll. And we'll give you, about 60 seconds just to complete that. Excuse me, another 30 seconds. Okay,
So
why
yeah,
don't we close the poll? Okay,
yeah, I've closed it.
okay. All right, so it looks like a majority are interested in being an entrepreneur or working for an entrepreneurship. I'm unsure about innovation entrepreneurship, and that's fine as well. But hopefully, you'll get, for whatever your answer was, you'll get something out of this presentation. So let's start. So the expected outcomes of today are to introduce innovation and the entrepreneurial mindset as skill sets for personal and professional success. And again, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of being. And then the second outcome is provide a sense of what it takes to reframe problems as opportunities to increase value. Because in essence, that's what innovators and entrepreneurs do. They look at problems and they see opportunities. And why are we doing this, right? So we're part of a workforce training program. Why are we talking about innovation and entrepreneurship? When we talk about the skill sets of the future and we look at them, right, a lot of them deal with the sort of things and skills and characteristics and mindset that you have to need or use when you're an innovative entrepreneur. Excuse me, analytical thinking and innovation, being able to think outside the box, right? Being able to look at things a little differently. Active learning and learning strategies, being able to constantly learn, being able to constantly look at things around you and learn about them, being inquisitive. Creativity, originality, and initiative, right? So again, these are all the skill sets, no matter if you're innovator, entrepreneur or not, but these are the skill sets that the employers and education institutions, foundations are looking for people that they work with in the future. Technology and design and programming. We live in a technology age, right? Oh, you all are very familiar with technology. We're on technology right now. Critical thinking and analysis, being able to think about things, not just receive information, but think about it and analyze it. Complex problem solving. So the problems we have are multi-dimensional in our society, and we need folks that have that skill set to help address that. And then leadership and social influence. And by leadership, I mean leadership at any chair, right? There's leaders that are out front, but there's also leaders that are behind the scenes that are making things happen and influencing outcomes. Emotional intelligence. So what's that is? Being able to understand yourself, understand your behavior, and be able to interact in different situations. Reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. Again, that word problem solving comes up again. Reasoning ties to critical thinking and skills. Ideation, being able to brainstorm and process information and ideas pretty quickly. And the last one, system analysis and evaluation. So with that, that's being able to think broad, think across systems, think and analyze that and really become, if you talk about the future, a lot of the future is uncertain. So you really need to think and look ahead, know what's coming in front of you, what you plan for the future. But all of these are things that you can learn, right? So I'm going to show a little video here and let me know if the sound works in the chat.
Hi, this is Darren Ike, author of Innovation Step by Step. And what skills should you focus on developing in your life? Why should you focus on learning innovation or developing your innovation skills or even doing an innovation program to help you to do that? Well, one reason why is because what is needed for our changing world and our changing world of work are some critical skills. I've looked at a number of research reports, and there are 5 critical skills that keep coming up. These are skills like critical thinking or problem solving. Can you identify the problems that you might be able to solve and see things in detail and deconstruct them? Can you do strategic thinking? Can you have a future vision? Can you create a strategy that fits with you or your organization for the future? Can you exercise creativity? Can you generate ideas? Can you develop ideas? Can you use design thinking to design something better that might be even different and new? Collaboration. You can't do this alone. You need help. Do you have positive relationships? How do you have positive relationships with others? How do you network and utilize your network so that you can do more together and collaborate and have teamwork and partnerships? And then also communication. This is kind of the hard work, right? If you're going to create an innovation or a change or something meaningful, sometimes people don't understand it because it's new. So you have to work hard to help them understand and also influence them to take positive action. And then when you bring all of these skills together, I think you'll be quite excited, right? Because, wow, you're leveraging the skills that are needed most for our future. And this all together becomes leadership skills, where you'll have the skill not only to do these things on your own, but facilitate it with others. You'll be able to not only grow innovation, but grow innovators in your world and in your organization. You'll be able to coach and train innovators. You'll be able to facilitate the innovation process. You'll be able to lead brainstorming sessions, and you'll be able to cultivate an innovation culture. So it kind of keeps happening. So those are the critical skills I'd focus on developing. So where do you start? What are the building blocks? How do you start to do this? How do you start to make these steps up to new levels? Well, I think the key is how do you build your skills to create and develop ideas with others? Because when you do that, you're leveraging a lot of these skills like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, collaboration, communication, strategic thinking, leadership. Well, a great way to build your skills is actually through doing something real. So in our courses and programs, we guide you through innovation activities, tools, and techniques, and you get to work on your real innovation project, something that's real, something that's meaningful to you, a challenge that you get to pick, that you'd like to generate ideas for. So it's helpful to have a guide to help you to do that, whether that's a book or a course or a program or a workshop, and to make that effective. And that will help you to take your skills to the next level. And if you're interested in learning more about these research reports from IBM, from the World Economic Forum, from Bloomberg, from the American Management Association, about what are the skills that we need most in our workforce, the skills that are highly desired but hard to find, skills that if you were to focus in on them, on developing them and learning them, that could be really valuable for your career and your ability to make meaningful change in our world.
Yeah, so the key thing there is that, innovation, you learn by doing. So again, you're in a workforce training program. We want to expose you to a different set of skills and different set of opportunities. So with that, I'm going to have Takaya come off of mute and just introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll get into the rest of our program.
Hello, everybody. My name is Takaya Roberts. I'm a freshman. Can you hear me?
Yep, keep going. We can hear you.
I'm a freshman at the University of Maryland, currently majoring in material science engineering, but I will be switching my major. I'll be making my own major, actually, which I'm really excited about, which will be focused on entrepreneurship, art, African-American studies, and STEM. My passion is entrepreneurship. I started when I was in elementary school, selling rubber band bracelets. That was my first business, and I actually got in trouble for selling stuff to kids because we weren't supposed to take kids' money from kids. But I had a blast, and ever since then, I just continued to start companies and, make money where I could. I started a clothing brand in 10th grade that ended up being pretty successful in my area. And now I'm working on building 19 streams of income before my 19th birthday. So that's my most recent project. I'm the creative director here at Startup Show at the University of Maryland, which is just an incubator and accelerator for entrepreneurship on campus. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Takaya. And again, I thought she would be fitting to join me because she's sitting where you are. And she, as you heard, she has very bold aspirations and she's very aggressive. And I enjoy learning from her, right? And working with her as well. So let's go back and talk about, so any questions or comments on the video, anything that we need to clarify, you can just type them in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, you can come off of mute. But is this stuff resonating? How are folks feeling about what we've talked about so far? Okay, keep going. Unsure, that's fine. But put a couple comments in the chat. All right. Looks like it's a shy group. Are folks still there? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to assume my chat window is frozen. You guys are bubbling up with questions, but I'm going to continue. So let's talk about innovation, defining it, right? Because innovation is one of the most overused words in society, but I want to make sure that we level set and understand what it means. So innovation, now the act or process of innovating, that doesn't really tell us much, but it says a new method, idea, or product, right? So thinking of something new, a new way of doing things, coming up with a new idea, or coming up with a new product. So really it's around change, transformation, breakthrough. So look at all the synonyms. So when you think about innovation, it's really an idea of really thinking, using those critical thinking skills, being very analytical, thinking in systems, and coming up and creating something new. So why does innovation mostly fail, right? Because again, if this is creative process, it's a method, it's thinking about a new idea product, why does it fail? It really fails due to lack of creativity, right? Because always there's all kind of ideas out there, and no idea is a bad idea. So when you're innovating, you're really thinking about creative solutions. But it's always because of a lack of discipline, right? Following through on that creativity, putting a process around it, putting structure. And what I'm here to tell you is that anyone can be an innovator. You just have to have that idea and that discipline of seeing your ideas and your methods through. So I would like to propose that, that other definition wasn't satisfying me, but I would say innovating requires identifying problems that matter and moving through them systematically, that's that discipline, to deliver elegant solutions. So solving that problem with the solutions. So knowing what and where to innovate is important as knowing how. And then really innovators look at the hardest problem first, where there's no easy answer, right? So the easy problems, we can all brainstorm really quickly and come up with solutions. But when innovators look at the real hard problems, and they don't count until there's a market demand or a customer sort of pays for them, right? Or paying is we are want to do a revenue, but the customer sees value. So I won't just say paying, but the customer sees value. And then most of these innovations that we hear about are known about bringing elegance and simplicity to hard problems. So we have another video.
For the past 5 years, I've been investigating this question of where good ideas come from. It's a kind of problem I think all of us are intrinsically interested in. We want to be more creative. We want to come up with better ideas. We want our organizations to be more innovative. I've looked at this problem from an environmental perspective. What are the spaces that have historically led to unusual rates of creativity and innovation? And what I found in all of these systems, there are these recurring patterns that you see again and again that are crucial to creating environments that are unusually innovative. One pattern I call the slow hunch, that breakthrough ideas almost never come in a moment of great insight, in a sudden stroke of inspiration. Most important ideas take a long time to evolve, and they spend a long time dormant in the background. It isn't until the idea has had 2 or 3 years, sometimes 10 or 20 years to mature, that it suddenly becomes accessible to you and useful to you in a certain way. And this is partially because good ideas normally come from the collision between smaller hunches so that they form something bigger than themselves. So you see a lot in the history of innovation, cases of someone who has half of an idea. There's a great story about the invention of the World Wide Web and Tim Berners-Lee. This is a project that Berners-Lee worked on for 10 years. But when he started, he didn't have a full vision for this new medium he was going to invent. He started working on one project as a side project to help him organize his own data. He scrapped that after a couple of years, and he started working on another thing. And only after about 10 years did the full vision of the World Wide Web come into being. That is, more often than not, how ideas happen. They need time to incubate, and they spend a lot of time in this partial hunch form. The other thing that's important when you think about ideas this way is that when ideas take form in this hunch state, they need to collide with other hunches. Oftentimes, the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch that's lurking in somebody else's mind. And you have to figure out a way to create systems that allow those hunches to come together and turn into something bigger than the sum of their parts. That's why, for instance, the coffee house in the age of the Enlightenment, or the Parisian salons of modernism, were such engines of creativity, because they created a space where ideas could mingle and swap and create new forms. When you look at the problem of innovation from this perspective, it sheds a lot of important light on the debate we've been having recently about what the internet is doing to our brains. Are we getting overwhelmed with an always connected, multitasking lifestyle? And is that going to lead to less sophisticated thoughts as we move away from the slower, deeper, contemplative state of reading, for instance? Obviously, I'm a big fan of reading. But I think it's important to remember that the great driver of scientific innovation and technological innovation has been the historic increase in connectivity and our ability to reach out and exchange ideas with other people and to borrow other people's hunches and combine them with our hunches and turn them into something new. That really has, I think, been more than anything else, the primary engine of creativity and innovation over the last 600 or 700 years. And so, yes, it's true we're more distracted. But what has happened that is really miraculous and marvelous over the last 15 years is that we have so many new ways to connect and so many new ways to reach out and find other people who have that missing piece that will complete the idea we're working on, or to stumble serendipitously across some amazing new piece of information that we can use to build and improve our own ideas. That's the real lesson of where good ideas come from, that chance favors the connected mind.
All right, so while we transition, this is one of my sort of favorite videos. One, because of art. Like, one of my hobbies is trying to become a sketchpad artist. So instead of writing notes in normal form, I've been practicing visualizing, just like the speaker Stephen Johnson did, creating a visual that lasts longer. But I do think that this gives you an idea about ideas and how to come up with ideas and how to merge them together. So Takaya, why don't you just give us an example? I don't know if it's your first idea or early idea you had, because I guess the folks that we're talking about are teenagers. Talk about in your early teen years ideas and how you came up with them for any one of your businesses or things that you created.
Okay. I think I'll talk about my clothing brand. I think that's kind of like the most popular and most relatable thing. So my 10th grade year for me was just like, it was just a really hard time. In high school, it was about 3 kids like passed away within 2-3 months. So it was just like a really rough time for me. It was a lot of loss. And then after that, my aunt passed away because she had colon cancer. So it was about 4, people just kind of died. And I was just sad. I was just like really sad. I was going through a lot of different things, and transitioning, being in 10th grade, starting to like figure yourself out and all these different things. And I'd always said I wanted to make clothes. I used to binge watch Fashion Runway. I don't know if anyone has heard of that, but that was like my favorite show. I'd watch it with my mom. And then I would always make like avant-garde like costumes for a program that I was in. So I was just really into fashion at a young age. I always like to design clothes and, just come up with like things in creatively. So I was like, 10th grade year, I was like, all right, let me just try to figure something out. So at the beginning of high school, I had like all these sketches that I had, just sketched out all these different ideas. So I like found all my sketches from like when I was younger, and I was like, okay, so I have these ideas, and I put them all together, and I just kind of figured out like I wanted to start this brand. And then, talking to other people about your idea is also very important. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, I have the best idea ever and I don't want to share it. But oftentimes, as you share more, you get a lot more feedback that is very beneficial to your growth as not only an entrepreneur, but as a person, being able to receive feedback when someone says, oh, this idea is terrible. Or, when someone's like, oh, this is an amazing idea. So I think it's really good to, share that. So I started like talking to my mom, and I was like, hey, like I want to start this brand. I didn't know what to call it. So I kept thinking, and she was like, I mean, you're very like out of the box. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up calling the brand Undefined. So the clothing brand was called Undefined, and it was Undefined Drip because in high school, you got the drip. I thought that was cool and everything. So I went on, Shopify, made my little website, and I just started designing stuff. Well, actually, I got my stuff made first. And the first time I got my stuff made, it was horrendous. There were holes in my shirt. I was like, I can never do this again. Like, there's no way that I'm going to let someone produce my own merchandise. So then I just like went to YouTube and just started doing all this research. I was like, all right, so I had this idea. How can I make it a real thing? I started like researching all these different things. I figured out I could bleach shirts. So I started bleaching t-shirts, and that was my first prototype. I wore it to school the next day after I made it. And then people were like, oh, this is cool. I want one. I was like, oh, so I was feeling myself with my little shirt. Turns out bleach actually doesn't ever stop bleaching. So I have a whole bunch of holes in that shirt now, but I still have it. So that was like my first thing that I made. And then from there, I ended up buying my own equipment with money I had just saved up for over the years, which wasn't too expensive. And I just kept going from there. I just kind of kept coming up with ideas and then evolving as time continued. I dropped my first collection, and I had way more sales than I ever thought I would have. So that was kind of just like the progress, started as an idea, something I always said I wanted to do. And as I got older and was kind of going through something, I just needed a creative outlet. So I was like, all right, let me get this going. And then I failed the first time because, like I said, my merchandise was awful when I first got it. And I was like, let me keep trying. So I made my own stuff. I started designing it. And then from there, it kept going. And now I'm in the process of rebranding and actually combining it with tech, fashion with tech. So that's kind of the space with that now.
Great. Thank you for that. And again, I think that was a really good story, an example. Again, it started with something personal, a situation happened to you. Is how you respond to it. And the clothing line didn't have anything directly to do with involved with her story, but it was a result of it compelled her to action. And it's really very innovative. Wearing your own thing, wearing it at school, gathering interest. So you learned about marketing very well, creating other products. You learn about the product, the sustainability of it. And then the key point I want to leave you all with is that she continued to do it, right? So she's still doing it to this day. So are there any ideas do folks have ideas for businesses or ideas for things they want to invent or things they want to create or innovate? Think about them. If you want to drop them in the chat, we will come to those in a second. But what I wanted to do now is just really talk about, again, we're continuing down this innovation thread. The first thing that comes to mind is always product innovation, right? Creating a new product or a new solution. But there are really 10 different types of innovation. And the more types you incorporate in whatever you're trying to create, the more successful your innovation is likely to be. So I want to walk through those in the next couple of slides. So again, 10 types of innovations: profit model, network structure, process. We all know product performance and product system. That's what you hear about a lot. But also, you can innovate an experience, right? By delivering better customer services, by creating a brand, by better engaging with your customers and creating a new channel. And it's really useful to have this when you want to improve something or analyze what you're trying to create versus the competition. And they're suggested into 3 categories: configuration, how things are configured, what you offer, and then what experience you have. So when you think about the 10 types of innovation, usually they fit in one of those 3 buckets. So let's walk through some examples. Profit model, that's pretty straightforward, right? Making money, converting, offering, and other sources of value into cash, right? You want to, live a lifestyle, you want to convert that into cash. Good product model or profit models understand what customers actually value and what the opportunities are willing for and what they will pay for it. The other thing about a profit model is that it challenges industry assumptions about what we offer, what to charge, and how you collect revenue. And then it's long lasting. It often becomes a standard for decades. So one example of a profit model innovation is Squarespace. Are people familiar with Squarespace? It's a web hosting platform that's used to design websites. So before Squarespace, there's this other product called WordPress, or another web development where you had to build everything from scratch. You had to HTML code. You had to be heavy deep into software development. But how Squarespace created its innovation, it came with custom templates. So everything was built. You just need really to have to design. You don't really know how to code. You just knew how to drag and drop, upload pictures, and type. Whereas before, creating a website took weeks and months. With Squarespace and a lot of the tools that are out there now, you can have a website up in less than a couple hours. So that's an addition. And by that, it made it more profitable because you can create and spin out more websites rather than have to hard code or hand design them individually. So that's a profit model example of innovation. Anything you want to add there, Takaya? Okay. Let's go to the next one. I think you'll know the next one. Process. So process innovation, right? So the whole idea is you have a signature process or your methods how you deliver something. So it produces a core offering. It's not business as usual. It's to develop a unique capability. It functions efficiently. It adapts quickly, and it develops market-leading margins. A special sauce that can't be copied, the opposite of the product, right? It's patentable. You protect that, and it's proprietary, and it's developed over time. So I don't know if folks know, like McDonald's, the French fries, they have a patent on how they make their French fries. And if you notice that, McDonald's French fries taste uniquely different. And again, it's the amount of salt they add and all that. But the actual way they design the French fries, it's a process, how they created, how they produced, and they have a patent on that. So if I go to McDonald's here, if I go to a McDonald's in Europe, the French fries all taste the same. And that's a result of that process. So that's process innovation.
I'd say a lot of that also has to do with like IP, which is intellectual property. When you're coming up with these new concepts and ideas, which is, IP is a really big thing now, which is really just like what you can think about and almost create. So I definitely like that's a big one.
Excuse me. Yep, good. Thanks for that. So the next one, if I can get my screen, my innovative screen to go, product performance. So it employs distinguishing features and functionalities. It's not usually the cheapest, but it gives you different features and functionality. It's usually highest effort and high spend, and then it's usually increases return on investment, so they last longer. And it's easily copied, but it's really, that's where the IP Takai was mentioning. But one good example of that is Apple. So Apple makes amazing products, right? Lack of a better term. So I'll say that with bias, I am an Apple shop, but even before then, the problem, challenging with regular PCs, they refresh every 18 months, whereas Apple machine, even before the new product line, Apple's last at least 4 or 5 years. They do cost a little bit more, but it's definitely ease of use and it's designed with the user in mind. They use, nice, colorful, screens. They have touch bars. They're always integrating new features into their product to make sure it performs. And the whole idea with Apple is that if you understand hardware and software, hardware is usually the hard equipment, the hard electronics, and software is the coding and the system. Apple intentionally designs their machines, the hardware and the software, to work seamlessly. So that's an example of product performance. So let's get into some of the service. And I think everyone's going to be very familiar with this example, especially during COVID. There's a lot of Amazon trucks, a lot of things coming to your house. So it supports and enhances the value of offerings. You enhance the performance and the perceived value offering. You make the product easier to use and trying to get. Thus, all the Amazon delivery trucks that are in your neighborhood. You reveal functions that may otherwise be overlooked. You elevate average products to exceptional experiences, and you get consumers coming back again and again. And that's the Amazon is a perfect example of that. For those that don't know, so Amazon started out as just an online bookstore, online book reseller, and they used to sell books at discounted prices, and they replaced the traditional bookstore. But over time, they've evolved into much of things. You can get anything on Amazon today. You can buy computing power through Amazon Web Services to stand up your apps. You can get food because they acquired Whole Foods. You can get deliveries delivered. But basically, Amazon makes it easy for you to buy online. So e-commerce, they took the e-commerce wave and they rode that. So they deliver an exceptional service. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can order certain items right now and they'll be at your door a couple hours from now. So that always gets consumers coming back again and again. So one of the things they've really innovated is the idea of service and having products and things available for consumers right away. All right, so the last one, right, that we'll talk about just from an example perspective is customer engagement. So distinctive interactions. So understanding insights about users' aspirations and transforming this into meaningful connections provides broad avenues for exploration. How do you make consumers' lives more meaningful? So the whole social media craze, right? It's all connecting the world. And one example is Instagram. So before Instagram, right, you would take photos, you would store them in your collection, you might share them. Or if people came over to your house or come to visit, or you might carry them in a photo album. Instagram made that all real life, right? And it started out with just photos and just taking pictures for the gram, but now it's video reels. It's, live streaming, so you can live connect. So it's really about understanding the users need to be connected and providing them different means to do that. So Instagram is a perfect example of customer engagement innovation. Anything you want to add, Takaya?
Another big example of this now is TikTok, which is now, they almost say TikTok is it's bigger than Google. It's like a browser. They're saying that's what TikTok is now. So it definitely allows people to engage a lot differently, even as an entrepreneur, engaging differently with your products as well. Thinking about how to effectively use social media to get your point across and continue to grow your brand is also another, big thing with customer engagement.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go into poll question number 2. And just to test to see if you all are out there. Give it about another 30 seconds. Okay, another 5 seconds. Go ahead and close the poll, I guess, Kay. Okay, so most of you got it. All right, so yes, the answer is C. There's 10 types of innovation. So great. So right now, we're going to take a quick break. I know we gave a lot of content to you very quickly, but Kay, what was it, 5 minutes, or how many minutes do we want to give for a break?
It's 6:37 now, so let's say we will reconvene at 6:40. Does that sound good? Or 6:40?
Yeah, that's fine.
6:40. Okay, yeah, 6:40, everybody. 3 minutes. Get up, stretch, get a drink of water. We'll give a 1 minute warning, and then we will reconvene at 6:40.
All right, see you all shortly.
All right, it is now 6:40. So thank you everyone for answering the poll questions we've had so far. If you have questions or ideas or just things you want to talk about, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll address them as they come up. And we will also be holding a little Q&A at the end if people have questions or want to discuss their ideas with Mr. Lawrence.
Yeah, and can folks just put a thumbs up to let me know you're out there and you're back? Just a quick thumbs up in the chat or raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, I see one. Okay, I see some people. All right, great. All right, so continuing the story around innovation, right? We talked about there's 10 types. We talked about innovation as a mindset and a skill. And really what it is, it often means implementing new ideas, creating dynamic products, or improving existing services. So as we said, it's not really all about products. It could be an idea. It could be an existing service. It could be an experience. And it's really from a business perspective, if I'm, innovating my business, I'm trying to get to that next level of growth, exponential growth. So you start at one place and you want to get to growth, and innovation is a perpetual thing. So yes, there's some companies that innovate for a while, but if you want to still be in business, especially in this age, you have to constantly be thinking about the next level of growth. So let's give some innovation examples, some other ones. How many are familiar with Uber? Raise your hand, just raise your hand or just say. So Uber is the world's largest taxi company, but it doesn't own any vehicles. Let that sit in. So Uber innovated the taxi experience and it became the world's largest taxi company, and it owns no vehicles. Another example is Airbnb. Airbnb is let's see, I'm having a cursor. Airbnb is the world's largest accommodation provider, whether it's just hotel or hospitality, but yet it owns no real estate. So, and again, they became the world large. They innovated the whole accommodation and hospitality experience, and they own no real estate. So people rent out rooms in their homes, they rent out their vacation homes, or they rent out excess capacity at hotels, and they use the Airbnb platform. So both of these are software, what we call software solutions or apps. But again, they are in the taxi industry and hospitality. So let's talk about, hear the case study by Airbnb a little bit.
People love Airbnb because it's cheaper and it provides a lot of different kinds of housing offers that fit the needs of all kinds of travelers. You are not limited to hotel rooms anymore. Now, whether you're alone or a family of 6, you can find a unique place that fits you perfectly with the exact criteria that you like. Airbnb started off with customer innovation by creating a new market of people who would rent rooms in other people's homes. Before Airbnb, it was inconceivable to let a random stranger sleep in one of the rooms of your house. As a matter of fact, most investors refused to invest in Airbnb because of that, and later they deeply regretted it. Since then, Airbnb started to list full units on their platform and got access to a much bigger market, which is vacation rentals. Now that Airbnb grew so big, it all seems so obvious, but let's quickly remind ourselves how things were before that. First of all, the market for apartment rentals existed way before Airbnb. You could rent your own flat to someone using websites like Craigslist, but it wasn't anywhere close to the global success that Airbnb is now. So why was it like this, and what did Airbnb do differently? The main problem of this market was mostly due to trust issues, because most people were worried about the idea of letting someone else live inside their home, either with them or alone. What if they would break something in your flat or trash it completely? What if they're just crazy and dangerous people? But this is a normal fear that many people still have, even with Airbnb, and it was the main challenge that Airbnb had to overcome. They managed to do it thanks to trust by design. That's what Joe Gebbia explains in his TED video, and you can find a link for it in the description. Using a robust system of identity verification and reviews for both hosts and guests, Airbnb managed to create a community of people that strive to behave nice to each other. Nobody wants a nasty negative review about themselves, whether it's for owners or travelers. So the review system is at the center of the trust solution, and this trust was carefully designed by Airbnb team. And design fits right into the value proposition block, as you probably already know if you have seen our previous videos. So, trust by design is the main piece of Airbnb business model which allowed it to grow so fast because everything else is just an obvious advantage. Airbnb is not a real estate rental company, but an online marketplace that puts guests and hosts in contact. So they don't have all the real estate and operational fees that hotels have. In case of hotels, their buildings are their key resources, but it depends on whether it's a franchise or if it's fully owned, etc. But for Airbnb, homeowners are their key partners. And hotels' key activities are hospitality management, but for Airbnb, it's mainly marketing, maintenance of their platform, and customer service. As of today, another important activity for Airbnb is dealing with local legislations who are under hotel lobby pressure to limit vacation rental market. But at some point, hopefully, this will be settled. Anyway, the fact that they are a marketplace creates two main value proposition advantages. Prices are lower than traditional hotels, and there's an infinite variety of housing offers, not just typical hotel rooms with double beds. You can find exactly what you need depending on the number of people that are in your traveling group and the housing criteria you're looking for. Airbnb constantly keeps optimizing the design of their service. It's very easy to book for guests, and all the steps are very clear when you're browsing the listings. It's also extremely easy for hosts to list a unit, start renting, and do all kinds of operations on Airbnb platform, such as collecting deposit fees, for example. So all of this is design innovation. As usual, it's important to reduce the number of obstacles for people to make a purchase, meaning to book an Airbnb listing, but also for the hosts to list their homes. Since the survival of these platforms depends on both sides, in this case, guests and hosts, the same logic of obstacle and risk reduction applies to the homeowners as well, so they can start renting safely and easily. That's the main reason why Airbnb put in place a $1 million fund guarantee in case of major damages done to an owner's property. So Airbnb started off with customer innovation, and once they got into the existing vacation rental market, they innovated on the business model in the value proposition block. Trust, lower prices, and offer variety. Now, where do they go from here? Well, Airbnb made it pretty obvious. They want to reproduce the same model where they are the intermediary in a market related to hospitality, so they created experiences. Think of anyone who is an Airbnb host who can also become a tour guide. The host creates an experience, whether it is a city tour, hike, a visit of secret places, tasting local kitchen, yoga classes, it can be anything. You don't need professional tour guides anymore. Maybe a host can do a much better job and be more creative than the traditional companies. So Airbnb is now disrupting this part of the tourism industry, just as they're doing it for the housing one. They are not changing or evolving their main business model when it comes to housing rentals, but they're duplicating the same model for a related industry. And because they can apply the same review system as they already have for housing, they can unleash the creativity of thousands of people who will create innovative experiences for travelers.
So, I think that's a good.
People love Airbnb because.
So as we said, as you noticed in the video, a couple key things to take away. Airbnb, which is one of the largest accommodation providers, it's really a marketplace. It's a technology platform, and they constantly innovate. So they're going from just offering stay to actually offering experiences. So we're going to pause there. Does anyone have any questions, any idea, anything they want to react to, something we need to clarify? Just put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll ask you to come off of mute. All right, so I assume we have a whole bunch of innovators out there. So I'm gonna turn it over to Kaya to talk to you a little bit about entrepreneurship.
Alrighty, so I'll be talking to you all about entrepreneurship. So just for the case of entrepreneurship, hopefully you all are familiar with this picture on the right. That's Shark Tank, a phenomenal show. If you haven't checked it out yet, you should. You definitely should. But with any good idea, and a lot of grit, anyone can become an entrepreneur. So it doesn't take, anybody can do it. Me, you, everyone on this call has the potential to be an entrepreneur. It just takes a lot of determination. When times get hard, you have to be able to keep going. You can go to the next slide. So just as a basic, like a call to action, this is just being able to understand how we need to be innovators and what it means to do that. And just like a little bit of insight of personal research that I've done. Most businesses are considered small businesses. So I'm sure everyone has heard the term of small businesses. So according to the Small Business Association, about 99.9% of businesses that are actually registered in the United States are considered small businesses. So, even companies that you may think may be large, they're still in the same exact bracket as you. So you can do it. But you can just see some of the stats here. I'm not going to read them out to you because all of you can read. Go to the next one.
Right, and the only thing I would say is that, just to add there, right, a majority of companies are small businesses, but even if you don't start your own business, a lot of employers are looking for folks with entrepreneurial mindset. And then as we understand that, we have to get into the habit of creating jobs for ourselves because, there will be more people looking for work than there are actually jobs globally. And then really entrepreneurship really creates new job creation. It creates a lot of the wealth. And then the whole idea is that we need more people to do that. So the rate of entrepreneurship has essentially been flat for the past 40 years. So that's why there's a lot of education programs such as this, integrating the whole entrepreneurship into this curriculum.
So do you need a lot of access? Do you need money, essentially? That's what I think about when I hear resources. One of the biggest things when I hear resources has to do with money. And do you need a lot of that to be an entrepreneur? And the answer is no, you don't need a lot of money. There's a lot of grants and there's a lot of different things that, you can use. And even if you do need money that you have access to. Also like amazing people like Mark, Mark's my mentor. So being able to come to him and, get different advice, that's probably one of the most valuable things, one of the most valuable resources as an entrepreneur. So just some vocabulary that's important as an entrepreneur. The first thing being problem. Any business that you start, being an entrepreneur, your biggest goal is to be able to solve a problem. That's kind of where it all starts. You have this problem that you're able to solve, and that's where your solution comes in, which is this, being able to solve a problem. An entrepreneur is someone who creates their own and owns their own business. They create opportunities also for other people to be able to give them jobs, be able to help other families, make money and higher incomes as well. But being an entrepreneur, you also have to understand one of the biggest words that come with it is risk. You risk a lot of time. You also risk a lot of your own personal money because most companies are something that's called bootstrapped, which is where you put your own money into your company. That's mainly how they all start. So risk is just the chance of losing something and having a negative outcome. And I think being an entrepreneur, that's one of the main things you have to be able to accept. In business, an organization, that provides products or services, and then reward. With great risk, there's also great reward. And I think that's why I want to be an entrepreneur and why I strive to do that now. You have all the time in the world to be able to work on what you want to work on when you're an entrepreneur compared to having to be, more constrained to certain hours of your day and 9 to 5. You choose your hours, you figure out what you want to do, what you want to work on. So, you also have the ability to have a large impact on society that you could maybe have bigger than working for, another company that's already established. You're following your own dreams and your own passions also. So, granted, there's a lot of risks that come with it. There's also a huge reward that comes with being an entrepreneur.
Right. And the only thing I would add there, when you talk about business, right? So there's business, what we call for profit, but when we talk about it more broadly, the business is a nonprofit. You could be solving a community problem. You could be, creating an innovative solution to deal with the homeless issue. You can create an innovative solution to deal with food deserts, people have enough food to eat. So don't only think of business as the for-profit corporate. Business is just any enterprise that you provide a product or service that they'll pay you for. So go ahead.
You sure you can?
Yep, you got it.
Okay. So there are like three, main topics, main components that we're going to address today that come with being an entrepreneur. The first being comfort with risk, critical thinking and problem solving, and my personal favorite, creativity and innovation.
Okay.
So comfort of risk. One of the first things is evaluating, the cost and benefits when making a decision. Each decision that you make in life, even if it's what university should I attend, is going to have pros and cons to it. Everything is going to have a consequence, either negative or positive, in everything that you do. And that's one of the main things about being an entrepreneur is when you're saying, should we take the seed funding money or not? That's a big decision that you have to make. You also, when you're making these decisions, have to anticipate what's going to be coming next. So not just having, a vision of what's currently going on right now, but what could possibly be happening in the future. Nobody thought COVID was going to happen, but that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people had to make changes for, figure out how to make their business that when people are no longer coming outside, and it's a big quarantine, how to make my business something that can be, usable to people that, are not able to access it how they normally would be able to. And that's when, things like Shopify really skyrocketed because they were able to, anticipate a challenge and they were open to these different options and able to really, capitalize on increasing their stock and being able to help other entrepreneurs reach a larger amount of clients. You also have to be willing to change your course, being able to pivot, knowing that you can't always just stay in the same track and you can, change directions is a huge thing with entrepreneurship as well. And also developing a plan. I think that's one of the biggest things is figuring out, okay, what you're going to accomplish today, what you're going to accomplish tomorrow, what you want to have done by the end of the month, just to be able to stay on topic and on task and know exactly what you need to get done. So we're just going to do a brief exercise and I guess we can have you type in the chat. But I want you to think of a time when you had to decide on an action that could have been good or bad with consequences. What made you decide to act or not act? What questions did you ask yourself in order to make that decision?
And if you feel more comfortable talking about it, we can have you come off of mute. All right, I see people out there. Okay. All right, let's go back to the question. There it is. Great.
While you all are thinking, I can, try to fill you in, but someone will definitely have to speak after me. But I know one thing for me was coming to college, being a freshman, my first semester is, am I going to continue this whole entrepreneurship thing? That was one of the biggest things that I kind of had to consider. And at first I tried to stop it, but I realized I really had been bit by the bug of entrepreneurship and I couldn't. There was no way for me to just not do it, just because of how much I loved it. But it was me realizing that, I have my grades that I have to keep up with now. I make all my own clothing. So how am I going to be able to do those different things? So I think that was kind of one of the biggest things that I had to consider, and kind of one of the biggest actions that I kind of had to take most recently. So anybody else have anything to share?
Okay.
So we have someone in the chat said, there was one time they were debating whether to do homework for a class they were already passing. And they ended up not doing the homework, and the grade didn't drop drastically, so they weren't worried. That's smart, you know, that's not always the best thing to do. I've definitely done that as well, but it's not the best thing to do, but I definitely can understand sometimes you have to think about your time. Anybody else? Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that was great, man. Well, and again, you were comfortable with that risk that you know that if you didn't do your homework, it wouldn't impact your grade. So yeah, that's a good example. Okay, there's another one in the chat.
Okay, says deciding on going to college. That's a really big one right there. I had to envision what kind of future I wanted for myself and what lifestyle I wanted. So can I ask you, did you end up going to college? What's your decision right now? What are you thinking? I decided to join the Navy. Okay, hey, that's still something. That's the LOL. That's still something though, you know. You're serving our country for one, so thank you for your service first and foremost. And you know, you can also get them to pay for your school as well. So that's smart. Can I ask you why you decided to join the Navy? That might be a lot to type, but
Yeah, feel free to come off of mute if you want. You can speak. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so basically, one of my friends is also joining the Navy, and she was just telling me about all the benefits and stuff of it. And I was thinking, like, I'm not really the type to like want to go to college and just do more schooling because I've been doing schooling for like my entire life. And like, it's not like I get like bad grades or anything. Like, I'm a pretty good student, but also I wanted to do something that like I was passionate about and something like I don't really like how in college you have to do all these general education classes. And when I go to Navy school, like I'm just getting trained on whatever I need to know. And then even after that, I'm still getting college credits for that. And then I can go to college after I'm done with my contract.
Yep, that's definitely good. All good. Yeah, you're comfortable with the risk. It's a different type of education and it's focused on what you're passionate about. So thank you for sharing.
yes.
Anybody else? All right. Well, that was a good dialogue. I really enjoyed that.
It was. Thank you for participating.
Yep.
All right, critical thinking and problem solving. So first and foremost, thinking objectively about a problem, that means taking your own bias out of it. I know a lot of times I really think about how I can serve the African-American community or different things. And sometimes when you're developing a product, you have to figure out how you can appeal to a larger audience. So that's a big thing. Analyzing data critically. I love to crunch numbers. I hope you guys do too if you want to be an entrepreneur. Understanding the different data that comes with your customer discovery and understanding your own finances is really big, so definitely understanding that. Think through a process. If you have a problem or you're trying to figure out something new, being able to get on a whiteboard and write everything out is a big thing. Being inquisitive, also asking questions. Always ask questions, even if if you don't know the answer to something, ask a question. Be honest and upfront with anyone that you're talking to, and you can learn a lot just from asking a simple question. Also considering multiple perspectives, which really ties into the first thing too, So if you're developing a product, you have to be able to consider different ethnicities and how that's going to affect them, different sexes, people, that may identify as whatever, how is that going to affect them? People that come from different backgrounds, possibly language barriers and all these different things, you have to be able to look from different groups of people and how whatever you're developing can affect them. And also people that may see something differently than you do. And how that can, if they would want to, use your product or not, or service. And then using evidence to develop and support effective arguments. I say a lot of this has to do with customer discovery, which is just when you really start to understand and learn your customer. So, you go and figure out what age range are most of my customers. What do they like to do? And figuring out all these different things can really help you to support your argument and support your assumption that someone may want to buy your product or use your service.
Right. And it uses evidence to support your hunch. As you remember the video before, we talked about hunches. So you get evidence, fact-based anecdotes to help you understand if what your hunch is correct or not.
Very true. Okay, so we're gonna have another exercise. So typing in the chat or unmuting, either whatever you're the most comfortable with. But what are the most important things to consider when picking out a birthday gift for a friend or a family member? You want to start it off, Mark? You want to give them an answer?
Sure. The first thing is understanding what they like and what they don't like, right? So if you're delivering a gift for a friend or family member, hopefully you know that friend or family very, very well, and you'll be concerning what they like or what they're interested in. And again, that's that evidence base, back to the critical thinking. So that's one example.
I agree with that. Okay, we have someone that agrees with you. Anybody else?
And that was the high level one. There's simple things like what size do they wear? So what are some other things that
Yeah, that's big.
come on, one or two people. So what are you going to consider for those who are going to get a practicality? Maybe okay.
I'd say the value of the friendship. That's
Okay.
important too. That's big because you might not want to buy somebody an expensive gift depending on the level. They might just get a candy bar. So I can understand that.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Mother's Day is coming up. So what are you guys considering when picking out a gift for your mother for Mother's Day? Or
it's a big one.
okay, those are all good. All right. Creativity and innovation. Go ahead. Let's close out on this one.
All right, so this is the last one, creativity and innovation. So identifying problems and needs and coming up with inventive solutions. So this is the most thing, there's a lot of problems in the world, but I think when you can figure out the best way to go about it or just a creative way, even if you look at somebody like Airbnb, there was already a service that did it. But another thing that Airbnb did was also centralize the payment to make it a lot easier for people to be able to pay and pay up front. So being even Uber, being able to come up with a solution. Taxi was already existent. People could already get to point A to point B, but being able to make it easier for people to be able to do this, see their driver, see reviews and these different things. So when you identify a problem or even a problem with the current system, figuring out how you can make it better is really important. Question conventional wisdom. So just like all these other people, Airbnb, we can look at Netflix and Blockbuster. Blockbuster, he I still feel bad for him. I know he's probably sick because I can't imagine having a company like Netflix put you out of business, that came and pitched to you. I'm not sure how many of you are too, familiar with that story, but Netflix came to Blockbuster and said, hey, we want to work with you, buy us, let's work together. And Blockbuster said, oh, people will never use Netflix. And then Netflix became, they, put Blockbuster out of business. So being able to question what's old, if the founder or CEO of Blockbuster could have really thought about, something that wasn't as conventional as what he was used to, buying the DVDs and maybe things will be digital, Blockbuster will probably still be around. Also taking risks. As long as they're calculated risks, you're good. But if it's a risk that you're not really thinking about the benefits and the cost of them, then you might be a little bit in danger. Also acquiring and making effective use of resources. So once you get your resources, so let's say you get funding or, someone gives you money, being able to use them in an effective way. I know for me, there was this one guy that I had an idea for. When I first started my clothing brand that I went to him and, I told him about what I was trying to do. And he ended up writing me a check for $2,000. But I can tell you that was the worst, pitch I had ever given anybody for my company. It was awful. If I were him, I wouldn't have given me the money. Like that's how bad it was, but he said he believed in me. And he was like, I wrote you this check because I believed in you, and I could have got a lot more resources if I was more prepared for the meeting, but I wasn't. So that definitely fell on my behalf. But, once I got that money, I had to think about the best way to spend it. And, that's kind of what you have to think about next. I ended up spending it on a pop-up shop. And then after that, testing out your various ideas. So, if you get money or whatever else, being able to test out what you're creating, being able to put it into use and start getting data and feedback on what you're creating is also really, really big. We can go to the exercise. Oh, have an imaginary conversation with your best friend. Write 4 lines of dialogue about where you were going to go eat next weekend. Here's the catch. You may not use the letter E in any word in any line of your dialogue.
Yeah, so you're going to need a couple minutes for this one. This is my favorite exercise. So I'm going to ask folks to spend some time to write a couple lines of dialogue to your friend about where you're going to eat. And you can't use the letter E in any word in any line. So I like folks to take some time to do that and then post it in the chat when they're done. All right. So any catch? Any lines of dialogue without the letter E? It's a little hard. Yeah, it is. Well, so what we'll do, we'll give it a couple minutes, and that'll, we'll use this part of our, break time. But yeah, let's give it a couple minutes. Oh, you almost had it. So, so do you want food on Saturday? What about McDonald's? That sounds nice.
Hi, do you want to go out to dinner next Saturday?
Oh, there's an E there.
Oh, dinner. Yep.
Dinner and next.
2 more companions. Okay, that was a good way instead of friends. Good
Those
book
almost.
and split the pays.
It's nice and good. All right, there we go. All right, any more? It's hard, isn't it? But you're being very creative. Almost. And one more. There's a good tries though. Almost very close. Give me about 30 more seconds to come up with another couple lines. All right. That was good, though. It's good. But again, it's hard to not to use letter E. So let's go to our last poll question. Can we launch the poll? All right. Let me close the poll and see what the answers are. All right. Everyone got them. Great. All right. So I don't think we need another. We'll push right through because we spent a lot of time on an exercise unless folks want to take another break. But I think we only have a couple more slides and we can open it for Q&A. So I'm just going to recommend we keep going. So the next section we want to talk about, now that we talked about the innovation mindset, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship mindset, fundamentally, those both come as solving problems. And in order to solve problems, you got to see them as opportunities, right? So we know problems exist, but it's really a mindset about them, right? So again, it's the road less traveled. The problem is he doesn't have a car, but the opportunity is that he gets to get exercise. So it's really how you view and frame and look at things. How do you experience around you? Not saying that it's easy, but usually out of problems, stress, or crisis, there always bears an opportunity. A lot of it is, being an optimist, but also being practical, looking at the situation with the skill sets we talked about, being very critical, being very analytical, taking into different perspectives. All those things, that you learn about innovation and entrepreneurship helps you to see problems as opportunities. So with that, I'm going to play my favorite video of this. And I wish I could make this high definition, but this is one of my favorite videos of the presentation.
That's not good.
Need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me. Well, enough left to do, is it?
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
That's one of my favorite videos, right? So I know by the 30 seconds in when the elevator's stuck, you're like, why don't you guys just walk? Right? But the idea is the problem was the escalator was stuck, but the opportunity is for them to walk and complete it. So again, it's a very an exaggeration, but it really gets you to think about problems are opportunities, right? So if you accept that problems are inevitable, oh, let's see if I can get my magic cursor going here. If you accept that problems are inevitable, you know, you can understand that you have to come up with solutions. So dwelling on problems really causes stress and hampers productivity, right? But if you talk to any successful entrepreneur or any professional with a positive attitude, right? So it's that attitude, you'll find one key thing in common. They all have a mentality to let them handle challenges and problems differently. Rather than seeing them as burdensome forces of opposition, right? Things, they see them as something to learn, to grow from, or to adjust in a way that better leaves them, you know, before the problem existed. So it's a simple mentality, but it has many benefits, right? First, it allows you to distance yourself from the problem. You learn to objectively evaluate threats and consequences, but it reduces that burden of stress that usually accompanies any new problem. Not saying that it'll make you less stressed or stressful, but it enables you to interpret it in a different way. Because when you view it as a positive light, it's less intimidating. Second, it helps you put things in context. And again, a lot of this is abstract, but we're talking about mindset and attitude. But I will give you this. If you look at problems, or most problems, as an opportunity to learn, grow, or develop, your attitude will be different. And thus you'll be perpetuating this new idea, and you'll be thinking like an innovator and entrepreneur. So let's do another exercise. So think of a particularly difficult problem you have right now, right? I'm sure that wasn't hard. And again, you don't have to type in the chat if you want to, but think about it. You know, I'll give you a couple of seconds to identify that problem. Imagine this problem is a random hardship occurring in an unthinking universe that doesn't care about you or your evolution. So now that you have that problem, imagine it as it's a hardship, it's occurring, it's woe is me, doesn't care about me, you know, it's a problem, right? So I'm gonna give you a couple seconds to do that. And it's an exercise. You could try it now, you could try it after the session. But now, close your eyes and think of that same problem as a challenge posed by the universe that wants you to evolve and knows that you can overcome the problem, know that you can think through it. And again, it's a simple mental exercise, but hopefully if you see it, if you did participate, it gave you a revelation that basically, if you see it as an opportunity, your mindset changes. You have a more positive attitude. And most people find it hard to see the upside when things are difficult, right? But this exercise helps you tap into the higher forces that help you move through your challenges. And one thing I want to leave you with before we go on to the next sort of exercise is, do you feel more motivated when you envision yourself as a part of the solution? or do you feel more motivated when you think by going through the problem, you'll advance or you'll learn in some way? Because that's the whole idea, to give you attitude and motivation. And again, if you see a problem as an opportunity, you have the attitude and the motivation to come up with elegant solutions. So I think, yeah, we've been chugging along for a while, but we're going to close out with an interactive exercise. And we're going to ask Takai to sort of lead us through this. And she may modify it, but we have this product innovation game. But Takai, do you want to lead us through this closing exercise?
Sure. Do you want me to do this one or the one we talked about?
Let's start with this one. Let's try this one for this group.
So we are going to do a celebrity product innovation game. All right, so your task is to brainstorm one or more of your favorite technologists, artists, athletes, and entrepreneurs with their own product. So the product innovation game is an investigation of some of your favorite people who market their own product. Be prepared to share your thoughts and experiences. I'm going to share one that you all can't share. Sorry, cousin calling me. That you all can't share. And that's going to be Rihanna right here, you know, with her Fenty Beauty line and everything else that she does. So I'm not even going to get into it. You already know what Rihanna does, but you can't use Rihanna. So come up with another celebrity or, you know, somebody like Steve Jobs. You can't use him either. I really want you all to be innovative and create some, like, come up with somebody that, you know, most people may not know about that you may follow. So we'll give you a little bit of time to do that.
So yeah, let's take 2 or 3 minutes to do that. And then I'm going to ask folks to start sharing. And then we'll open up for Q&A. Okay, well, 1 minute left. Then we're going to ask folks to start sharing. Okay, so, okay, either in the chat or raise your hand and we'll bring you off of mute. Who wants to share? Okay, so one of the security guards at my school has a clothing brand. What type of brand is it? What's the name of the brand? Huhim? Okay. It's based off his name. Okay. So what's been your experience working with, you know, understanding what the security guard is doing and what he's doing with his clothing brand? Okay. It's interesting to see because we found his Instagram, a lot of famous people follow him. Okay, that's good. Emma Chamberlain, she's an influencer and has her own coffee online company. Okay. That's great. One more. I think we've heard, so let's hear from someone we haven't heard from. Okay, all good examples. Thanks for that. Thanks for participating. So basic key takeaways from the game, Willie, that celebrities or people, influencers have a strong enough platform to market products as opposed to an entrepreneur who are just starting out. Entrepreneurs often have limited resources to create a product, but they do it anyway. They're solution-oriented people. They're always looking for problems that they can potentially solve with a business solution. And then sometimes entrepreneurs must be comfortable taking risk in developing a product or starting a business. So all of the folks that you talked about took a risk, they were comfortable with it, and they started. And that's the whole idea, to start. It's not going to be easy. It's going to have its challenges, but the whole idea is being able to be creative, comfortable with risk enough just to start. So, just a couple of things to think about. Was it hard for you to think of a celebrity or an influencer or a person you knew with a brand or business or product? No, that means to show you. I would assume no, because entrepreneurship and innovators are all around you. If you talk about celebrities, do you believe the celebrity entrepreneurs market products that solve a problem? And in this case, the answer more than likely is yes, right? And then do you think these products are a direct reflection of the celebrity entrepreneur, right? It's something they care about and there's something they're interested in, or sometimes it's an opportunity that's presented to them and they want to invest in the people that presented them the opportunity because they have the platform, the visibility, and the support to help other people be successful. And that goes back to one of the first concepts we talked about, which is collaboration. So to sort of close is that we talked about a couple of things. Innovation, the innovation mindset. We defined it. We know that there's not one type. There's really around configuration, around experience, and around product, right? So it's not more than just products. We talked about entrepreneurship, the need for entrepreneurship. And then we just talked about the traits, right? So really that's the end of the presentation for today. But I'll open it up for Q&A. But I know on the site, and on the other places, we have some references that you can look up online, or if you're interested, I can point you to the actual books. But here's some things to really talk about for the 3 different topics we talked about today: innovation, entrepreneurship, and how to see problems as opportunities. So with that, Kay, I'll turn it back over to you, or if we want to have Q&A, but I think we're done for the presentation for today.
Yeah, so that, as Mark said, that concludes his presentation. We'll linger for a minute or two just to see if anyone has follow-up questions. As always, you will get an email from me tomorrow that will have a brief poll for us to get some feedback on how this presentation went. It'll also have links to some supplementary materials and where you can download the PowerPoint that we used today. And then we have one more session on this next week, same time, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And Mark will present the other half of his information about innovation and entrepreneurship. And I'd like to thank everyone who participated today and typed in the chat. It makes the session much better if we're able to engage directly with your ideas and what you guys are thinking about. So thank you very much for that. All right, I don't see any other comments or questions in the chat. So I'm going to close the session out. Thank you guys all again, and we look forward to talking with you next week.
See you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.